Welcome, Darel La Prade, Program Manager of the Delaware Journalism Collaborative. Thanks for making the time today. And might we begin by having you share a bit of what brought you to a career in journalism?
I graduated from Washington Lee University in Virginia, purportedly a school that had the first school of journalism, and I went there because I wanted to work for a newspaper. I never set foot in the school of journalism. And then once I graduated, I went to work for the Virginian Pilot, and I worked in their circulation department. I've been a reporter, editor, photographer, worked in the press room, delivered papers, sold advertising, just about anything you can do at a newspaper, built websites, all of that stuff. So,
well, suffice to say, you're in the right place at the collaborative. How about sharing with our viewers here your definition of the collaborative? And I must be honest and open, I too am on that committee or that group of people. I'm very interested in preserving or, good local reporting. How about you?
Absolutely. And I think the collaborative is sort of it's going to be the cutting edge of how local journalism survives, not just our collaborative, but similar efforts across the nation. Since April 1st, I've learned just a bit about how many of these, how many similar operations there are, and I'm astounded at how many they are and what good work they're doing. But our collaborative was formed under the Local Journalism Initiative of Delaware in 2022, which is a 501c3 nonprofit. And the collaborative itself was underwritten by a 2-year grant from the Solutions Journalism Network, which in turn is funded by the Knight Ridder Corporation. And solutions journalism is that, we have to use evidence-based reporting to report on a specific topic, but the idea is that we should also advance solutions to whatever the topic is or problem is that we're reporting on. The idea of the collaborative is to encourage local newsrooms to pool their news gathering, reporting, editing, and production efforts with a goal of producing groundbreaking journalism. And one of the major challenge that all local media face is that it's a business model thing, and we just don't have enough people anymore.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because, our time is relatively short here, let's talk about the inaugural focus, which is getting to the bottom of why Americans, and in our case, Delawareans, are so polarized. So to that end, the collaborative authorized a poll, and I thought it was fascinating. Can you talk about that?
We authorized a public opinion survey, and it was conducted by the Center for Opinion Research at Franklin Marshall College. And the staff there put 50 questions to more than 500 of the state's adults that were selected scientifically to reflect Delaware's population. They used either telephone and or online, depending on what the respondent actually wanted, how the respondent wanted to answer the questions for the poll. And the survey's findings paint this fascinating picture of our state. And in my mind, it's a picture that differs somewhat significantly from one often portrayed in national media.
How so?
Well, Delaware is often characterized as a state of neighbors, and that it's a Delaware, and we follow the Delaware way. We work quietly together to find answers to our problems. But if you look at the results of the poll and the data contained therein, there's some startling differences that suggest otherwise. Just as an example, only 36% of the residents of Sussex County agree the state is headed in the right direction, compared to 56% of Newcastle's residents. Age even produces a larger gap. 74% of those younger than 35 agreed with the positive assessment that we're headed in the right direction, while only 39 of those older than 55, 39% of those older than 55 agreed.
What is to be learned from this going forward relative to the mission here to produce more, I don't know, I don't want to say old school, but trustworthy journalism?
Well, the poll itself is evidence that we can use, and it's also what it provides is this sort of a guide. It provide the journalists something of a guide, and they can use the data from the poll to identify topics or issues that divide us on a community level, and then they can begin to report on those things from both sides. And as they do that reporting, I would be hopeful that they would also begin to see that there may be solutions, and that they would also advance those solutions. I think it's important to note, Sharon, that solutions journalism is not advocacy journalism. We're not here to take positions. Rather, we are here to report on specific issues that cause polarization, that divide our community, and then having done that, to advance possible solutions. The solutions are not for us to decide, but rather for the community to decide. And it's important that we get as much information in the hands of the community as possible. And that
is so critical, so fundamentally critical, right?
Yes. That points back to the purpose of the collaborative. I am hopeful that we're going to be able to do work in the next year that that no individual newsroom could do on its own, but by cooperation, mutual cooperation, newsrooms can work together, and they can then report on these things. We have a very good example that the collaborative has already done, and that is Return Day. This year, Return Day was, Return Day, first of all, is an event obviously considered unique in the United States, celebrated on every Thursday after Election Day. And voters and politicians and others gather in Georgetown to hear the return certified. Dates back to 1812. This year,
they literally bury the hatchet. I've seen it multiple times.
Yes, they literally bury the hatchet.
They do.
It's a symbol of overcoming the partisan polarization that takes place during the election. But this year, there was significant discord because the carriages that were used, that are used for the traditional parade, are housed at the Nutter D. Marvel Carriage Museum, where a Confederate battle flag flies above a memorial to the Delaware soldiers who fought for the South. And in today's historical moment, and good for us, we recognize how frightful and offensive that can be. And but
Darel, not everybody recognizes that, even right now.
Well, no, I agree. Not everyone recognizes it. Many people do. Some people don't, and other people do recognize how offensive it can be. It is what led to the discord. And, some people refused to go. Some people, some Democrats, and I suppose independents, and perhaps even some Republicans, refused to go to Return Day because of that. Well, the point is, I'm not about to engage in what's right in trying to determine what's right or wrong. But the point is that the collaborative hired a really good reporter who investigated this and reported on both sides of the issue. And it put, the information and described the polarization that was caused by this incident in great detail. And, it got wide readership. We distributed it throughout the state. And did it do any good? Well, that's not for me to say, but I feel good about the effort that we put into it.
Well, you said distributed throughout the state. There's one of the big problems. When I grew up in Delaware, we had the morning news and the evening journal, and those were the go-to sources for news and information. It's so splintered now. So part of the challenge is to communicate, what is a reliable source and what is an opinion page and so forth. To me, that's the big problem.
Well, certainly media fragmentation is a huge problem that we face, because as we know, that most social media companies are not really in the business of hiring professional journalists. What they want is user-generated content because it's free. And I have often said in my career, information wants to be free, but journalists must be paid. And so that does cause a problem. So again, with the media fragmentation, the collaborative is a way that we can potentially push back on that problem, because we can link these newsrooms together that have credible journalists and that are producing fact-based, evidence-based reporting, and we can expand their ability and their capacity to report.
Darel La Prade, let's do this again and we'll see what the outcome was.
Very good. I'll look forward to it.
Take care.